Your dentist owns his practice. His name is on the door, his license is on the wall, and in most American states, the law is unambiguous. A corporation cannot own a dental practice. Only a dentist can. So how does a private equity firm in New York own 1,000 of them? It doesn't. Technically, it owns everything except the practice. The chairs, the building, the scheduling software, the billing, the supply contracts, the staff at the front desk, the marketing, the lab agreements, the payroll, everything you can see and everything you cannot. And it collects a management fee for providing all of it. The dentist keeps the license, the liability, and his name on the door. The company keeps the economics. That structure has a formal name in healthcare law, the Friendly Professional Corporation, and it is the single mechanism this entire industry is built on. So here is the plan. We build a dental service organization from zero using real numbers, what practices cost to buy, how the management fee works, and where the actual profit is made. Then the part nobody puts in the investor deck. What happens when a management company sets production targets for a doctor, and why 2 states just made this structure illegal. Start with scale, because this happened quietly and it happened fast. About 16% of American dentists are now affiliated with a dental service organization. Among dentists less than 10 years out of school, it is more than 1 in 4. The rate of affiliation rose roughly 47% between 2017 and 2023, and here is the number that reframes it. DSO-affiliated practices account for about 23% of practices, but they generate roughly 53% of dental expenditures. Less than a quarter of the offices, more than half of the money. There are somewhere between 100 and 200 private equity-backed DSOs operating right now. The largest controls more than 1,000 practices, the smallest owns a handful. Heartland Dental is backed by KKR, Aspen Dental is backed by Ares Management. These are not dental companies that took investment, these are investment vehicles that bought dentistry. Now back to the legal problem, because it is the load-bearing wall of the whole business. The doctrine is called the corporate practice of dentistry. The overwhelming majority of states prohibit non-dentists from owning, operating, or controlling a dental practice. A congressional survey found only about 6 states permit some form of non-dentist ownership. The reasoning behind those laws is simple and worth stating plainly. Clinical decisions should be driven by what is best for the patient, not by what maximizes profit for an owner who has never looked inside the patient's mouth. So the structure splits in 2. On one side, a professional corporation owned by a licensed dentist. It holds the license, employs the clinical staff, owns the records. On the other side, the management company, owned by whoever has the capital. It owns literally everything else. The 2 are bound by a long-term management services agreement. The dentist who owns the professional corporation is often called the friendly dentist. Sometimes he practices there. Sometimes he holds that title across dozens of practices he has never worked in. The word friendly is doing an enormous amount of work in that phrase, because the arrangement only functions if that dentist reliably agrees with the company. Now the money, and there are 2 separate engines. The first is the management fee. It is the mechanism that moves the economics from the practice to the company. The fee is supposed to reflect the fair market value of the services provided. In practice, it is often structured as a percentage of collections. It is the primary revenue line of the entire DSO. The second engine is the one that actually creates the wealth, and it has nothing to do with teeth. A single location general dental practice sells for roughly 4 to 7 times earnings. Under $1 million of earnings, the range tightens to about 5 to 7. Now assemble 30 of them into one platform with centralized billing, purchasing, and marketing. That platform sells for 10 to 15 times earnings. Nothing about the dentistry changed. The same drills, the same patients, the same waiting rooms. You bought at 5 and you sell at 12, and the gap is the entire business model. This is why the industry calls it the DSO arbitrage openly in its own trade publications, and it explains the acquisition pace. Roughly 160 dental transactions were tracked in a single recent year, but an arbitrage on paper still needs cash flow underneath it. And a practice that has already been bought cannot grow the way it grew before. The patients are the patients, the town is the town, which leaves exactly one lever that scales, and this is where the story turns. Every additional procedure performed in that chair flows through the management fee. And the person deciding which procedures are necessary is the dentist, who does not own the software, the schedule, the marketing, or his own performance review. In 2018, the Department of Justice settled a case that shows precisely what that can produce. The company was Benevis, a dental management company. Its clinics operated under the name Cool Smiles. More than 130 clinics across 17 states. The clinics were founded to serve underserved communities. Nearly all the patients were children on Medicaid. The settlement was $23.9 million. after a 7-year federal investigation. It began with 5 separate lawsuits filed by former employees under whistleblower provisions. The government alleged the clinics knowingly billed Medicaid for medically unnecessary procedures on those children: baby root canals, tooth extractions, stainless steel crowns, and in some cases billing for baby root canals that were never performed at all. Now the part that matters for anyone studying the business model. According to the government's allegations, the clinics ran a production goal system. Dentists who exceeded their targets received substantial cash bonuses based on the revenue their procedures generated. Dentists who fell short were disciplined for being unproductive. And when the company's own dentists complained about overuse of procedures, those complaints were ignored. Read that structure carefully because the incentive is doing the work, not the individuals. A baby root canal reimburses substantially more than a simple filling. Put a revenue target on the person holding the drill, and the drill finds more work. The Justice Department's language was unusually direct. Officials said the practice corrupts the impartiality of medical decision-making. The following year, this pattern had already drawn a formal United States Senate report on corporate dentistry and Medicaid. Chains had been removed from Medicaid programs and settled with state attorneys general. And note where the legal exposure sat. The management company paid the settlement. The clinical decisions, on paper, had been made by independent dentists who owned their own practices. That is the structure functioning exactly as designed. Now, why does the dentist accept any of this? Because of a number that has quietly reorganized the entire profession. The average indebted dental school graduate in the class of 2025 owed about $298,000. That debt has grown enormously in a generation. Dental school is among the most expensive degrees in the country. On a standard 10-year repayment at current federal rates, that is roughly $3,500 a month, $42,000 a year before rent, before food, before anything. Now consider a 28-year-old with that balance deciding whether to buy a practice. Buying means borrowing another $600,000 or $700,000 on top. The alternative is a salaried position with a signing bonus and student loan assistance. Large organizations can offer that. Solo practices usually cannot. Only about 17% of young dentists now work as solo practitioners. Among experienced dentists, it is roughly 50%. The debt did not just change where dentists work, it removed ownership as a realistic option for most of them. An entire profession became employable, and the capital arrived to employ it. All right, numbers. Let us build the platform and see what actually comes out. You are a private equity sponsor. You buy your first practice. It collects $1.4 million a year and produces about $400,000 in owner earnings. You hire an associate to replace the retiring owner at $180,000. You centralize purchasing, billing, and marketing, which adds back roughly $60,000. Adjusted earnings, about $280,000. You paid 5 times, so $1.4 million. Now you do that 29 more times over 4 years. 30 practices, roughly $8.5 million of combined earnings, bought for around $42 million. Add debt, integration costs, a management team, and a technology stack. Call your total investment $60 million. Then you sell the platform, not 30 practices, one company with 30 locations and centralized systems. At 12 times $8.5 million, that is $102 million. Against $60 million invested over 4 to 5 years, you did not invent a treatment. You did not improve an outcome. You bought 30 small businesses at one price and sold them as one large business at another. And every dollar of that gain rests on a management fee, flowing out of clinical decisions you are legally forbidden to make. Which brings us to the thing the industry is not ready for. The structure that makes all of this possible is now being legislated against in real time. In June of 2025, Oregon passed Senate Bill 951. It went furthest. It prohibits management company ownership in clinical entities outright and eliminates the minority ownership structures that were previously standard. 4 months later, California followed with Senate Bill 351, effective the 1st of January this year. It prohibits private equity groups and hedge funds from interfering with the professional judgment of a physician or dentist. Management companies may no longer participate in coding and billing decisions. They may not control equipment selection or set productivity parameters such as patient volume. Read that last one again. Productivity parameters, patient volume. California wrote the Cool Smiles allegations directly into statute as prohibited conduct. The law also voids the non-compete clauses that kept dentists locked in place, and voids the non-disparagement clauses that stopped them publicly criticizing quality of care or revenue-increasing strategies. The state attorney general can enforce it with injunctions. California also now requires 90 days advance notice to the state before many of these transactions can even close. 2 states in 4 months aimed at exactly one structure. So who is this business for? The operational case is real, and it should be said honestly. A solo dentist negotiating supply prices alone pays more than a network of 400 offices. Centralized billing collects more of what is owed. Shared marketing fills more chairs. A young dentist with $300,000 of debt may genuinely not want to also become a small business owner. None of that is fraud. Most of it is ordinary economies of scale. And most DSOs are not the subject of federal investigations. But be clear about what the returns actually depend on. Not on the dentistry. The dentistry is roughly the same in either building. The return depends on buying small and selling large, and on a management fee that grows when more work happens in the chair. The business is legally structured, so the people who benefit from more procedures are prohibited from deciding which procedures are necessary. Everything in this industry rests on how well that wall holds. 2 states have now decided it does not hold well enough. So the question is not really whether the model is profitable. It is. The question is the one you might think about the next time you are told you need a crown. Who exactly is being paid for that decision? If this was useful, subscribe. We are working through the businesses that look simple from outside.